everybody, it's me, Laura, and today we're going to do my Twile Stoic Canes. And this is kind of really a basket weave sort of cane anyway, but that's what they call it. So I figure, well, we'll just go with it, right? Anyways, I'm bringing in some white clay here, and this clay was flattened out on my Atlas pasta machine on a #1 setting. And I'm just going to go ahead and trim this up just a little bit so I can get a nice, decent white log. Now this thing, I will take this and I'll punch it from both sides. And this way then I'll get a nice squat kind of little cane. And this cane will then be about, I want to say about 1 inch in height. Once I have this, I'm going to bring in my black clay, and I'm rolling out my black clay on, again, my #1 setting on my Atlas pasta machine. And then I'm going to just go ahead and wrap this black clay up around my white. So I wanted to go ahead and measure that white inner core, and it's close to 1.5 inches. It's a little bit under, but this way then you guys will have some reference in creating this cane. And for newbies or for new people who are really coming into polymer clay for the first time, this might help you a little bit too, because I'm going to be giving you those precisions as to like, okay, it's this thick, or it's going to be, used with my ruler. I'm going to measure out exactly what the cane might be. That being said, if you are new to polymer clay, here's a hint when it comes to this particular cane. If you're really nervous about trying to figure out how to make this cane in the first place, I suggest taking in my segmented pedal cane videos, because those really help you. You get a little bit of practice in trying out that particular cane. And this way then when you come to this, you'll be like, oh, I get it. No problem. So just as a suggestion. Anyways, as you can tell here, I've taken that rounded white cane and I've reduced it down. And then now I'm taking the whole thing and I'm flattening it out. Now, I discovered something when I started doing this. I really like my ruler. Holy cow, do I like my ruler. And the reason why is because it does the one thing I need it to do in creating this cane. I need to flatten the top part of it. And what I mean is, you see how I'm butting that ruler up against the sides? And do forgive me, I know my camera's bouncing all over the place, but I'm really using some pressure here. So anyways, I use that ruler to help flatten that top part, because that's where my line's going to be. That's where my registration mark is. Anyways, once I have this, you're going to see, okay, it's still fairly rounded. Well, I'll bring in my acrylic roller and I'll flatten it on all 4 sides. And just remember, as you're using your acrylic roller over this cane, remember to use even pressure. This is why I rotate it each time so it won't get out of whack. Now, mind you, it is pure white clay. It's not going to matter that much. However, when you're dealing with the color, that brings in a whole nother element. Plus, when you're looking at this particular kind of pattern, this pattern relies on the very fact that it is a square cane. It is not rounded at all. All right, so here you could tell I'm going to cut this in half, and as soon as I have that, I'm going to cut this in half again. So what you need here is 4 sections of 2 segments. Once you have this, then we're going to go ahead and put it together. All right, so just for reference, I just wanted to show this thing is close to about 1/2 inch all the way around. I'm not precise, but pretty close. Anyway, once you have this, the main thing is that I have all 4 pieces that same size. Once you have that, you're going to bring in some black, and I just folded this over. I rolled it out on like my #1 setting. I doubled it up, and then I'm just cutting kind of a black square log from it. Once I have this, I'm going to cut this down so it's the same height or close to the same height if I can. And then I'm going to start placing it next to my first segment. Now, when I bring these segments in, I'm going to also kind of bring them together the way they're going to be formed up. So right here, I'm bringing in that black log, and you can tell it's a little bit raised. So you don't want that either. So I'm trimming it down so that it will be nice and snug against the other one, and that it's not too far out from it either, because you got to fit that fourth piece into this cane. Okay, so right here, I'm thinking it's reduced enough. We're going to go ahead and cut it in half, and there you go. So just so a reference here, I do like to use Kato clay when I'm building my polymer clay canes. It's just a nice clay to do that with. You can use Primo, absolutely no problem. You can use some of the other brands, no problem. Fimo, it's fine. I just prefer Kato in this regard. Anyway, from here I'm cutting slices. Now as I cut the slices, and this clay is unbaked, I'm creating my 16-piece slices, okay? So for those of you who don't know, what I like to do is I like to cut 16 slices from the cane I've built, and then I like to bake all of these slices in my oven. And it's like 7 to 10 minutes to bake these things. And I do this for reference. So in other words, when I get these particular slices all baked up, I can take them apart after I've gotten this in the oven and then start figuring out what kind of patterns I can get. And the nice thing about this is if I want to go ahead and build just one of those patterns, or let's say I did a pattern with the cane I have and oh no, I don't really like that one. Or guess what? There's a whole lot more to this particular cane. That's what you're going to see right here. I'm only giving you a few versions because I don't even want to think about how many different kinds you can get. There's a lot. And you start to throw in color and oh gosh, you know. But right here I'm giving you the black and white version, and you could see there's a little bit of a different weave between each of these. And it's only because of the different positioning of each of those slices. And each of these slices would represent a separate cane. All right, so let's go ahead and bring in a little color. And I know you're like going, well, wait a minute, this is black and white. Yes, it is a black and white. I wanted to do a Skinner blend of white to gray, if you will, and then we'll roll this thing up in my black. And yes, the black will be rolled out on a #1 setting. I want to say this cane, it was fairly thick, but I was like, you know, when you start big like this, I always like to start with that black clay being on a thickness of at least a #1 setting for my Atlas pasta machine. This way, when I wrap up this particular Skinner blend, it's going to be appropriate as I reduce it down. So right here, I want to say this particular Skinner blend from white to gray, it was 1 inch wide, and then it wound up being like 1.5 inches tall, I do believe. And, you know, again, right here, wrapping it up in that black, and so that's why I'm starting a little bit thicker. So once I have this wrapped up, I'm going to go ahead and put in this registration mark. So it's just a simple log, my little white here, and I'm placing one on the top and one on the bottom, and then I'm just trimming it up with my scissors. I really do suggest, because it's a Skinner blend, you're going from one color to another, and since you're doing that, you really want to know where that color is landing when you go ahead and put this cane together, because it might not look right if you don't know. And that registration mark makes a huge difference, because now you're going to know exactly where it is on the outside, where that center is of each color. And you know, if you didn't have that registration mark, you could twist this thing up and oh no, you could be at a loss. So hence the idea of why I love my registration marks. From here, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm flattening this cane out. So It's, you know, the registration marks are looking away from me. They're kind of at my north and south. And then I'm rolling this flat on my east and west axis. Anyway, I'm also pinching it because sometimes when I roll it with the roller, I don't always get it where that registration mark is directly on my side, or, you know, looking away from me, if you will. And when I do that this way, then it gives me a little bit more precision. Now this section of cane, or I should say this cane, has gotten pretty long. So we're going to cut it in half, and actually it's long enough that I'm going to be using a few of these in even the next cane as well. So I'll cut this down where I have more than just 2 segments. And right here, I'm bringing in my blue. Finally, we're getting to the color, yay! So my light blue clay, which I wrapped in my black on a number 1 setting. That's what I'm dealing with here. Once I have this together though, as you can tell, I'm just kind of flattening them together. One section of the Skinner blend, one section of the blue. And then once we have this together, I flatten that out. I'm going to cut it in half, and then I'm going to put those 2 together, and then I'll cut these 2 in half again. This will give me 4 sections. That's what you're shooting for. You need 4 sections of this cane. And then once I have those 4 sections, then we can put together our next Twile Stoic Cane. All right, so I've reduced this down, and yeah, okay, that definitely sets up some interesting patterns that will be coming, because if you think about it, your color just hits you. Whether it's blue, red, purple, green, it doesn't matter. That color with that kind of black and white, little bit of a background, you know, in that Skinner blend, it really sets up a real dynamic. So you're going to be getting some very different patterns in this. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to cut another 16 slices, and I'll show you the patterns right here. All right, so now I'm going to bring in another fanful. This is my yellow to magenta in Kato clay, and this is probably, guys, this is my favorite blend. I love this blend, and I'm normally a blue person, but you know, this blend, I just love it. Anyways, I can't get away from it. I'm going to use this now as my next, or one of my canes in the next pattern. We're doing this blend along with my black and white, or I should say my white to gray blend. I wanted to try 2 blends together and see what kind of pattern I would get, and I loved it. This is probably my favorite set of patterns. I only have a few in this, but I didn't discover all the different patterns here. Just as a reference, if you guys were wondering, like on the last set, I might not have gotten all the patterns there. I think there's probably more. Same with right here. I really think the more differences you get when it comes to, like, say for instance, I'm doing the one blend with the color. I think there's a few differences, quite a few differences, but then you start bringing in two blends and it starts to get really crazy. So as you could tell here, I'm bringing in a little bit of gray clay, and this is going to be my registration mark on this cane. I'm going to put one on the pink side and then one on the yellow. I'll go ahead and reduce this cane down, and I've already got my gray and white one sitting off to the side, so I don't have to worry about that. I've already done that particular cane. I've got a section of that waiting to go ahead and be put up against this one. Anyway, from right here, I'm just kind of reducing. I'm going to reduce this down, and then once I have it reduced, I'll roll it out flat. Once I have that flat roll going on, I'll cut this into two pieces, and then I'll take one of these pieces and put that up against my gray and white. Okay, so here I have my yellow and pink and my white and gray cane. Now, this is where the options get crazy. I could have put the gray and white, like I have it right here with the pink next to my gray and my yellow next to my white. Well, you could flip it around and have the yellow down by the gray and the pink next to the white. So you can kind of see just that alone changes it. And then when you do this, you then have the four sections and which side is on the inside, which is on the outside. Hence the idea of getting so many patterns. As you can see, I picked my gray area next to my pink and my yellow next to my white. So we're going to try this one out, but keep this in reference, guys. You could go ahead and flip it around and see what you get. Okay, so I just have to say, I love that cane. I cut that and I was like, oh, that is so pretty. Anyway, from here, I'm going to go ahead and cut my 16 slices so I can use this to find out what kind of patterns I'm going to get from this combination. All right, so I loved this, the last cane so much that I decided I need to do this with a little bit more color. And so I decided, let's go ahead and make a rainbow cane. And, you know, I took out my blue, my pink, my yellow, blended them all together, and I thought we'll wrap it in the black and we'll go from there. Well, here's the thing. Okay, so I did this rainbow blend. I had the white on the one side, and when I went to put it together, I did it exactly like the last one. So I had most of the color on the inside of the cane and the white was on the outside. And it mimicked it so much so that I thought, no, this is not the look I was really looking for. And a lot of it was just my positioning. I had messed up my positioning. I thought, oh, no, not that way. See right here, that's what I'm doing. I'm putting the color on the inside, just like I did the last cane. And I thought, what would it look like instead if I put the color on the outside? So here I went ahead and I made the same grouping, except I put a little bit of gray on the one end on the white, and I had that same rainbow cane. And I thought, we're going to change this, and we're going to change it in such a way where, yeah, I'm going to add a black core instead of a white, but this time we're going to put the white or the lighter area on the inside of the cane and the color on the outside. I just thought, you know what, this is going to be really different from the other one. I just know it. And sure enough, when I went to go and put this thing together, yep, the combination totally changed. And not in the regard that it wouldn't change, but that there was more of an emphasis, I think, on color here than there was on the white or the white gray area like I have in this cane. I think it really made a difference. And when I went to go and put it together as a combination for, the 16 slices, yeah, it had a definite difference in emphasis. So here I went back to the other cane where it had more of the white feature on the outside of it. And I decided I'd cut my slices, and we're going to do a small little comparison right here in this section. Okay, so here I have the cane where it's got a little bit more of the white emphasis on the outside with the white center, and you can really tell it's pretty dynamic, right? I went ahead and did a couple of patterns right here, and you could probably get a few more patterns out of this, but as we move into the next one, you can see the definite shift, that dynamic of that white, which really now it's more color in that emphasis than it is the white. Right here, I've got a couple of patterns side by side, sorta, and there you have with the comparison, the white on the outside versus the white on the inside. Okay, so this is our final twill Stoic pattern, and I decided I had a whole bunch of this cane left over, whole ton. So I decided, let's really mix it up, shall we? And so I decided, let's go full bore with the color. So I used a little bit of cane work from really everywhere. Whatever I had on hand. That's, I had my blue, I had my Skinner blend, the rainbow, I had the pink and yellow, I just thought, let's just go for it, right? And this thing got wild. Holy cow. If you do this, to me, in my mind, and even from the last part, I almost felt like once you got that cane, there really wasn't much of a change when you started changing the little 16 tiles around. It just kind of seemed to all be the same. Although in this regard, I did put the pink emphasis on one side and then the rainbow one on the other, and it did do a little bit of a different look on a few of the patterns. Okay, so I didn't take all 16 tiles here. I just wanted to show you, even in a border kind of feature, this could be really, really dynamic. And just imagine that as a border going sideways, going horizontal. I also took these and I thought, let's just make a 4-tile part and a small border and see what it looks like. Again, really neat and dynamic kind of looks. From here, I'm going to go ahead and let my tiles talk and show you the different patterns I got from this particular cane. Okay, so these are some of the results I got from creating my Twile Stoic kind of canes. Please use this for study and reference. And if you like this video, please like, subscribe, and leave me a comment. I'm always wondering what you're thinking. Otherwise, I'm sending out my biggest hugs to each of you, and I hope you have a fantastic day.